This is item number BL700, or our metal loom. I also have a little bit of cording here, and this item number for this is BC3876. This is a good broad cord in a size D. So you can use thicker cord or you can use thinner cord. It is totally up to you. Should you want to use embroidery floss, you can do that. You may want to double up your cording if you are working with thinner cord. On the opposite end, if you wanted to work with rat tail, you can do that too. Keep in mind that for however long your finished length project is going to be, in this video we'll be making a bracelet about 7 inches long. So your cording, because you will be doubling it up, make sure that you go about 1 foot to 1.5 foot longer than what your finished length is going to be. And then I'm going to fold it up onto itself so that I wind up with a nice fold over right here in the middle of the cord. The color cording that you use in your project is as important as the color seed beads that you use. Try to pick a color cording that's closest to the color seed beads that you'll be using. So now with the very middle of my cord, I've taken it and I've actually made an overhand knot. Cinch the knot closed over one of the nail heads on one of the adjustable rods on this bead loom, like so. Pull both of the cords fairly tight and start wrapping the cording around the rod. Stop when you have about 8 inches over here on the other side of the loom. So I'm continuing to wrap with the other side, and now I'm going to stop because I have about 8 inches left right here in my hand. I've tightened both of my adjustable dowels and I have my cording wrapped around this top one. Now I have 2 sections of cords that I'll be left with. I've taped one of the sections to one side of the loom and now I'm left with another section. What we're doing here is we're going to be separating out our cording. And we're making sure that our cording is running straight up and down, that it's not diagonal, and that they're all evenly spaced from one another. You just want to make sure that everything is evenly spaced. It doesn't necessarily have to be tight at this moment, but it does help when you are separating all the cording out. Now my cording for the one side is taken care of, and with the remaining cords that I have, I'll spin the loom around so that you can see, I'm taking these and I'm going to wrap them around the nail head on the other side and then tape this section down to the loom temporarily. I'm going to turn the loom back around, remove the tape from this side, take these 3 cords and line them up right next to the other warp cords that you put in between the separator rods. After that, I'll show you how to finish stringing all of your warp cords onto your loom, and then we'll start our loom work. Here's my cording. I've gone through all the separators on the separator rod, and now I'm taking the end of my cording and I'm wrapping it around the nail head and then removing the tape from the other side of the loom. And now, as a final step, you'll take your cords and you'll do 2 overhand knots with the cord ends. Now, at this point, don't cut off any of the cords on this end either. Rather, what you're looking at right here is going to be the top of your loom. The side of the loom down here that has all the excess cording is what you'll be using to loom up your work. So where you're going to attach your weft thread to, and I'll show you that in the next segment, is right here, and for me it's going to be on the leftmost warp cord. As you're running out of room, so in other words, as you're doing your loom work and you're moving down all of your warp cords and you run out of room down here, you'll loosen both of these adjustable dowels and you'll move all of your work up. Now, does it matter whether or not your work goes up over the separator rod? No, not entirely. What matters after that happens is that all of your tension is down here and that your cords are all still separated between these separator rods. One more thing before we begin, and just to keep in mind, how many beads wide your project is determines how many warp cords you'll have in your loom work. In other words, if you have a project like I have that's only 5 beads, you'll need 6 warp cords. I have my cording right here, and all I'm going to do is make a quick overhand knot on my right side, or the leftmost warp cord, if I was turning my loom work around to work with it facing me. What do you do with the tail from the knot that you just created? Believe it or not, you cut it off. The knot itself and the cording all will become extremely tight as it's weaved in and out through all of the beads. Take your needle and go underneath all of your warp cords. Now I already have my beads attached. The seed beads that I'm using are item number SB6003. And then you're just going to tighten up on that weft cord, and all of your beads will snap into place between each of the cords. Now remember, all of your warp cording should be nice and tight. It shouldn't be tight like a guitar when you pluck the strings, and it shouldn't be so loose that when you press on it, the warp cords remain depressed. Rather, it should be fairly springy, and when you bring all of your beads up through the cording, if you remove your fingers, they all should stay there. Take your needle and go back through all of your beads. This time you're going on top of all the warp cords, not underneath. And then pull your cording nice and tight. Again, bring the needle underneath all of your warp cords, pick up your seed beads, bring your beads up through each of the warp cords. Use your fingernail to make sure that they're all right next to each other. Take your needle, go back through the top and through all the beads like so, and then pull your needle nice and tight. Keep repeating this step. Underneath the warp cords, thread through and on back over the top of all the warp cords through the beads. Continue this until you've reached all the way down here at the bottom of your loom work, and then the next thing that you have to do, loosen the adjustable dowels, pull your work up and over the separator rod, tighten your dowels again, and go back to your loom work. As you see, I've strung some of my beads onto the loom already, and as I'm running out of room down here, I simply loosen both of these adjustment dowels and bring my work up and over the separator bar. It's okay, it's not going to hurt the bracelet itself, and in fact the tension is still nice and tight, so even though there's no cording or warp threads going through any of these separators, that's fine. What counts is that they're going through the separator bar down here at the bottom. Another thing to think about is eventually, if you make a long enough project, you will run out of cord. So how do you put a new weft thread into your loom work? Well, with this small amount that I have left, I'm simply going to go back from the left to the right through my last row of beading, and then go through the third row from the bottom, from the right to the left. Go through one more, like so, and then simply take your needle off the thread. You do not have to put a knot into this cord. All you have to do is simply leave it as a tail hanging off the side of the loom work, and I'll show you what to do with all of these tails at the very end of our project. Now to bring your new thread in, make sure that you thread your needle onto the new cord. You're going to go one row below where you came out of with the old cord and go from the right to the left, leaving a tail, and then go down the next row to the bottom, and then to the last row that you threaded on. Pull nice and tight, and you're ready to continue looming on more beads. So I've stitched the last number of rows onto my bracelet, so now I have the correct length that I need for my finished bracelet. Take your weft cord and go back and forth through all the rows like you did before, but this time on the last two rows, go through two of the interior beads. I chose the first and second from my right, and the first and second from my right on the next row above that. My cording won't be coming out of one of the sides of the bracelet, rather it'll be coming out next to the last bead over here on my right side. You won't have to use any knots to secure the cording in place. Simply take your nippers and cut that thread away. After you take your loom work off of the loom, all of the tails that are on the side of your work will be pulled back into the beadwork when you cut them. All of my loom work is done, and I've loosened both of my adjustment dowels, and all I'm doing is I'm pulling my cording off and then taking my side cutters, or scissors if you have them, and cutting all of the cord off right next to that nail head. So there's one side. And the other side. Now you can take your loom and set it off to the side, and what you're left with is your beadwork off the loom. In the next step, I'll show you exactly how to finish off every single strand, but first, What do you do with those side tails from the end of the first cord that we worked with and the beginning of the second? Well, you guessed it. Take your side cutter and clip away those cords. There you go. Now we're ready to finish off our bracelet and add our toggle clasp. I've threaded the first warp cord on one of the sides of my loom work, and I'm simply taking my needle to the second row and I'm going in 2 beads from my right side. Pull your needle through, and then take your needle around and you're going to go through the third row through the 2 beads on the side directly beneath the 2 that you just came out of. Pull your needle and thread tight, take the needle off the thread, and then take your side cutters and clip away that cording. Make sure you get in there nice and tight. If you leave a little bit of a tail, don't worry so much about that. Eventually, as you wear it, it will get sucked back into the loom work. Now repeat this step again for this cording. Leave the 2 middle cords, flip your bracelet around, and then finish off the first cord on this side and the second cord on this side, and then I'll show you how to put the circle half of your toggle clasp onto this side of your bracelet. After you've taken all of your warp cords and you've finished them by threading them back through your loom work, you're left with 2 cords in the middle. Thread on 1 more of the seed beads that you were working with, and in this case, since I'm working with the circle half of my toggle clasp, only 1 seed bead will be needed for this side. If you're working with the other side, like this side I've already finished, the bar side of the toggle clasp will require 2. Now this is so that this bar half of the toggle clasp can fit through the circle half of the toggle clasp. So remember, just like in bracelets, 2 beads on the bar side and 1 bead on the circle side. Now another thing too that I've done is I've put a loop with my cording around the connector, and this is just to add a little bit more security to both the clasp and to my loom work. With these 2 remaining tails, take your needle, thread it onto one of the cords at a time, and just like you did with finishing all of your warp cords, go through all of your loom work to hide the tail. There's no need to knot these last 2 cords. Just thread them through your loom work about 1/4 of the way down and then just clip off the remaining cords. So here's what my finished bracelet came out to look like. And as you can see, the size seed beads that I decided to use wound up making a fairly organic pattern when they were put right next to one another. If you're looking for something that would form a much tighter pattern, we carry Miyuki beads in all sorts of different colors, and these are size 11. The bead loom that I've put these Miyuki beads onto is item number BL701. This bead loom is actually a bit wider, so if you're looking to do purses or amulet bags, this would be the one for you. It also has a lot more separator rows, so if you're looking to do much more intricate, detailed pattern work, this would be the bead loom that you'd be looking for. So remember, the size and shape seed bead that you decide to work with on your loom will determine the final look of your weaving.